terror. What ancient evil can change innocent words into strange creatures at whim? Can it be stopped? Or is this sleepy town doomed? Don't miss the cyber slaughter in Computera.
So, trying to be modern, and I'm guessing edgy with having it be called Computera, this age-old evil genie story has one small twist. He's in a computer instead. After a random member of the public accidentally breaks a bottle in Dr. Beaumont's shop, which he doesn't notice despite the bottle ending up on a two-sided shelf and the crack being wide enough to push your fingers into, this results in the genie escaping into Archie's laptop that Reggie happens to have on him. The reason for that is that Archie hurt his hands, meaning that he can't write his newspaper article. So for some reason he delegates it to Veronica, who then hands it over to Reggie instead. Of course, asking Betty to do it, or asking Jughead to just write it by being dictated to by Archie, of course, is something completely missed by the episode. Reggie intends to write, in his own words,
"I'll write the dumbest article in history. Then I'll put Archie's name on it. He'll be the laughingstock of the school."
And whilst this proves once again that Reggie Mantle is actually an awful human being and character, he also accidentally wishes that the story he writes comes true. Reggie then soon believes the computer is magic, and immediately uses it for his own personal gain, like making Betty and Veronica like him. Because of course no sane person would. This soon gets out of control when the genie's released, however this is, as I've said, soon fixed as Archie tricks the genie into another bottle.
"And when I am done, I will destroy you for your insolence. See how easily I accomplish this."
To be precise, a ketchup bottle, that the genie goes into because Archie challenges him to get the ketchup out. So despite the fact that he could just use his own magic, the genie decides to use his entire body to push the ketchup out. Which, if you can believe it, will be something that will happen again in another episode, and that the villain will simply be tricked back into their own prison. Given that there's no explanation for how the genie could hide in the laptop, or why it had to, since the idea of it granting 3 wishes before freedom isn't brought up until it happens, and that Archie somehow knew that the ketchup bottle would contain the genie, show the continued lack of build-up or real mystery within these episodes. So this episode can try and wish it away all it likes, but it's gained a spot at number 30.
I was a teenage vampire. Being a teenager can really bite. Not convinced? Just ask Archie and the gang. Maybe you had it easy growing up, but I was a teenage vampire.
The first mention in this list of one of 2 3-parters that appears towards the end of the season for some reason, despite the fact that all the rest of the episodes are self-contained, features vampires, although they've shopped at topic, questions about how smart a head vampire is, and is also likely the dullest part of the vampire trilogy. So the Master Vampire is unearthed with no reason for why he was in a coffin anyway, as the first part of this trilogy says that he can safely walk in the sun. Veronica ends up becoming a vampire, and then for 15 or so minutes, nothing really happens except for some running about. Veronica is still being a pain, another vampire is complaining about Veronica, and a vampire is killed by garlic breath. Yes, I'm serious. Finally, Veronica is freed from her vampirism and turns the Master Vampire old, for some reason, instead of completely destroying him, which ends the episode. This episode, for some reason, is just a massive filler between the first part and the final part. Nothing really happens other than the supposed relationship between the Master Vampire and another one called Scarlet being set up. Which, of course, then doesn't make any sense, because during the first part of the trilogy, it's heavily made up that Scarlet wants Archie for herself as a companion all throughout the episode. So a sudden change of being in love with the Master Vampire and hating Veronica because she's stealing his attention just feels like they came up with it on the spot. Along with the episode being such a cliche in vampire plots, to having an important character for the episode turned into a vampire, it just feels like hollow padding between a lackluster opening and a finale where they pull even more crap out of their ass. So with that, we have an episode sucked dry of any creative juices, and placing it at number 29.
Of time. Archie is trapped in Riverdale's past. Can Archie get back to the present before his friends become a light snack for a prehistoric monster? The fate of Riverdale depends on a teen out of time.
Funnily enough, the third part of the other three-parter follows on this list. As similar to Teenage Vampire, it lacks any sort of subtlety and intelligence during its plot. Following on the continuing quest of some idiotic villain who ended up in jail because, I shit you not, for trying to break into a bank so that he could buy more nachos, somehow regaining the time travel device made by Dilton, Vinny brings a T-Rex to Riverdale and forces Archie to go back in time to avoid being eaten. This results in Archie being important in the founding of Riverdale.
There's a nice valley right over there.
Huh? Show me.
There's a river on the far side.
Getting his principal to stay in the town.
So you've had one bad day. You've got to keep trying. Don't give up. Tomorrow could be completely different. If a student became discouraged and wanted to leave Riverdale High, what would you tell him?
To keep trying and not give up. You're right, I can't leave.
Introducing his younger self to Betty.
Hi, my name's Archie. You're new around here, aren't you?
Uh-huh. Moving in today. I'm Betty Cooper.
She'll be okay.
And finally getting Veronica moved to Riverdale.
Well, I've got a friend who's almost as spoiled. Besides, here in Riverdale, we try to be a little more understanding.
How refreshing. My name is Hiram Lodge. I'm visiting Riverdale to review some local loan applications for my bank.
The episode is all wrapped up when Archie returns to the present, distracts the villain long enough for his future self to get the time travel device, with no explanation of why he needed to be distracted, or why Archie was sent on his own to reclaim the device. The main issue with this episode is that the whole of it is meant to be all this wouldn't have happened without Archie there in Riverdale. But the issue is there's no build-up and then reveal. In every past sequence, it almost immediately states who and what's going to happen. If they'd kept this till the end and had these scenes implied with only Archie understanding their full meaning, it would link it far better to the whole point of Archie being important to Riverdale as a whole. Oh, and future Archie teases at who Archie will pick between Betty and Veronica. Even if the choice of the series should be obvious, but since even the comics couldn't make that decision and created two separate series to follow each path, means that this is something that would never be answered, and it's likely it wouldn't be satisfying if it did. Meaning this episode ran out of time before it even had any to use, at number 28.